I was doing a live stream last night where I got the very common question from anybody outside the Navy, and that is, why is the Navy rank structure just so messed up, and why can they not understand it? And I'm going to talk about a lot of the issues that even people in the Navy have about this rank structure and some of the intricacies that are out there and the nuance that makes it hard for even people like us or people outside the military that are looking to understand this, but there's a lot of weirdness that's going on. Now, the first one that most people come across is the E4 to E6 ranks. And that's because the E4 to E6 ranks go up, right? E4, E5, E6. The chevrons that are on the ranks go up each single time, right? Where you start off at 1 at E4, you start off, or you have 2 at E5, and then you have 3 at E6. And you're like, oh, maybe there's something correlating to 1, 2, 3 as you go up. But no, there is not. The rank structure is broken in the way that it looks because it goes E4 is third class petty officer, which only has 1 chevron. And then you have second class petty officer, which matches because it's in the middle, has 2 chevrons. And then you have first class petty officer, which has 3 chevrons. So you're like, this is the inverse ascending versus descending type thing. And people are like, I don't understand it. Okay, now moving on to another weirdness that we have here, and that is because the chief petty officer rank. Now, a lot of people are like, anchor equals the fact that that is a chief. And a lot of people outside the Navy have deduced that from everyone I've ever talked to. It's like the only thing that they can think of beyond chief, senior chief, master chief, which is E8 and E9. They typically are just like, I see an anchor, it's a chief. And most chiefs probably won't care too much if you're using not senior or master chief because they know that you probably don't know. But it's okay. We respect people attempting. This is like you trying to learn Spanish, okay? But the issue I have with this is insignias have to match across the board. Now, if you look across from the Marine Corps, Army, their rank insignia that is on their collar, if they are in the camouflage uniform that they wear, is the same looking as if they were also in their service dress uniform. So you're like, that makes sense. But then you look at the dichotomy here of how the Navy has chief petty officers, and you look at what they would wear on their dress uniform versus what they would wear on the collar of a service working uniform or some kind of working uniform out there, and they don't match. By the way, the dress uniform doesn't have an anchor on it from what you can see. You just have to understand that the rocker on top of the chevrons equals that that's a chief. And you're like, why? Why is this so confusing? Why is there not an anchor on the dress uniform? There should be an anchor. Why is there not one there? It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Maybe there's some chiefs out there that can explain better as to why that is, but I just thought that was so hilarious that there was such the difference between those, where you don't see that much of a difference at the other ranks here. Now, the next one here has to do with people that are E3 and below, right? And this is where it's all wonky. Are anybody E3 and below going to be offended that they were disrespected by this? Probably not. Damn! The Marines go by every Marine as a rifleman. So they're all the same in some degree or fashion. And you would think every sailor is a sailor. You all go to boot camp at the same place and you learn firefighting, deck seamanship type stuff while you're out there learning to do line handling, things like that. However, a big however, once you leave boot camp, you are not always considered a seaman. Now, that's because you have different rates or jobs that are out there, which would decipher what you would be called leaving boot camp. So if you are in a seaman rating that is under the seaman category, you would wear blue, dark blue. Then, if you are doing an aviation job, it would be green, and you're an airman. And then you have the fact that people are firemen, and it's red. And then lastly, you have constructionmen if you're Seabees. This doesn't have to be that complicated. Make everybody just seaman. Like, if we're going to say everyone's a seaman, let's just do that. And I know that's complicated. And it only really matters at the E3 and below level. But you may notice if you see somebody that is E3 and below and they will have their rating badge, which is like an insignia of what their job is. Below that, you'll have 2 or 3 stripes that may be a certain color. And you're like, deduce it down to the color. You're a constructionman, you're an airman, a fireman, or a seaman. And that just is too much. Like, we need to dumb this down a little bit because it's not really that relevant. And on top of that, I almost have to laugh too because the Navy has said that E3 and below is so much of a whatever rank that no one really cares, that even the insignias that you're going to find on those dress uniforms are not on their working uniforms. There's nobody E3 and below that will, on their working uniform, whether in the Navy, that wears the camouflage green NASA uniform, or in their coveralls while they are on the ship, the blue jumpsuit, that will have a rank insignia on it. So it's almost like, why even care about it? Let's just clean this up, call it a day. I think this would be the easiest fix. That's just what I'm saying. I don't know what, massive traditions have been here with this, but I have to say, this seems to be the easiest where people would have the least amount of issues. My next gripe, and that was because, I'll tell you, it's not because the fact that we have them, it's the fact that we don't use them appropriately, and that is the warrant officer ranks. Very few in comparison to my experience working with Army and working with the Marine Corps, and that's because we don't use them as often in the Navy, and I'm not sure why, but we didn't use W1s for a long time. It is a rank. It was there, and it does apply to other branches, but it wasn't until recently where they were like drone operators, and I believe there's some cybersecurity stuff that's out there where these people are now going to wear the rank of W1, and that's because they needed to pay them more if they wanted to retain them. So when I look at this, I'm like, it wasn't really out of like, let's appropriately use ranks. It was like, let's just figure that out. And so essentially, we were just missing the rank until recently where I was like, oh, we're actually going to use something we're authorized to use. And that is because every other branch I can think of that normally ask about the Navy, like the Army and the Marine Corps, typically don't understand this aspect because they break off. Now, if you look at the Army side of things, you look at the Marine Corps, they break off at E8, whether you're going to be a first sergeant or whether you're going to be a master sergeant or, moving up to sergeant major or master gunnery sergeant. So look at that. The Navy does not do that. The Navy is very confusing because it's seen like once you hit the E7 rank, you're doing administrative roles, kind of like what I would say you would see a first sergeant do, or kind of in that realm. They kind of blend those together. Now, that is not always the case because also the chief rank is confusing for a lot of people because a lot of people are interested in all the insignias that go with the job. But if you are getting out of your rating, going into higher levels of master chiefery that are out there, you're going to essentially see that people could have a star in replace of where that rank is at. So that patch that's on the side of their dress uniform would be confusing, right? Like, so you guys can see how all of these nuances that are out there are really making it confusing for people outside the military or outside the branch itself. I'm going to go on to say Air Force and Space Force are what I'm going to tackle next. But if you can think of any other issues with the Navy uniform that are out there that don't make sense rank-wise or structure or whatever, please let me know down in the comments below because I'm sure I did not hit every single one of them, but these are the ones I could think of. But if you guys like topics like this or want me to cover other stuff, make sure you hit me up over Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. I love you guys. See you next time.